Listen, this is a little wonky. Let me just put that out in advance. It's a Spygate story, but please, it's really, really worth your time. I'm going to take a few minutes. It's a story by Andy McCarthy in National Review, and it's about the total scam that's become this FBI lawyer, Kevin Clinesmith, who has pled guilty to doctoring a piece of evidence in order to spy on Carter Page. The total scam that his plea was. Before we get to the piece, let me just give you quick background. Folks, this is a huge story. McCarthy, who is a former federal prosecutor and a brilliant guy, very sober analyst of this whole Spygate case, has a great book out on it too. He points out this total scam, and I bring this up in light of what happened to Mike Flynn. I'm actually glad we delayed the story from yesterday, because in the Mike Flynn case, General Flynn, where he pleads guilty to save his son to a crime he didn't commit, lying about sanctions he was never even asked about. We have the transcript of the interview where he's alleged to lie. He's not even asked about what they said he lied about. We know it was a witch hunt. He pulls his plea. The government won't let him. And yet the government in this case showing you how justice is dead. It's totally dead. Justice is blind only to Democrats. Doesn't see anything Democrats do. You have this lawyer, the Viva la Resistance lawyer in the FBI. Viva la Resistance! FBI lawyer involved in the spying operation on Trump. They let him plead. This guy was dead to rights. Here's what he did. They wanted to spy on Carter Page for contact with Russians. The contact with the Russians, Carter Page, who had worked for the Trump campaign. They wanted to spy on him, the FBI, because they wanted to spy on the Trump campaign using Page. They were claiming his contacts with Russians were nefarious. We got to look into that. They were not. Page was working with the CIA. That's why he was contacting Russians. The FBI couldn't tell the court that. So Clinesmith doctored a document showing that that Carter Page was not a source for the CIA when he was. The case is no more complicated than that. Joe, does that make sense?
Yeah, easy peasy.
Easy peasy, right? Now, here's where this case is really shocking. Clinesmith has pled guilty to doctoring this piece of evidence. The CIA was like, hey, he's a source for us, Carter Page. Clinesmith emailed this FBI agent. No, he was not a source. Really simple, right? In the plea, Clinesmith, the judge amazingly lets him plead guilty, but says, I didn't really mean to mislead anyone. Wait, what? What? Are you on illegal narcotics? You didn't mean to mislead it? And the judge let him plead. McCarthy's piece up in the show notes says it's a 3-part series. I put part 2 in, but the links are in part 2 to 1 and 3 if you want to read the whole series. Part 2 really explains it though. This is the scam the judge let this guy get away with. So why does this matter? Because now leftists are saying the FBI lawyer, he didn't really mean to deceive anyone. It was an administrative mistake. He pled guilty to doctoring a piece of evidence. And it wasn't a mistake. Check out this piece without further ado here, because it's good. Andy McCarthy, National Review. Clinesmith guilty plea, using a digraph to conceal a massive deception of the court. What did they do here? So Clinesmith doctors evidence, says Carter Page is not a source for the CIA. Page is a source for the CIA. The CIA told him Page was a source for us. How did Clinesmith get away with telling the court, oh, I was confused? I was confused? Let's go to screenshot number 1 from McCarthy's piece. This is the snake operation these guys ran. When you encounter the digraph, ladies and gentlemen, is a 2-letter designation for a source for the CIA. The CIA emailed Clinesmith and said he's a whatever, CI, confidential informant, whatever the digraph was. They don't say what it is here. So when you encounter the digraph, then understand that's a CIA term defined as an American who's authorized by the CIA to have contact with foreigners and who wittingly reports the resulting intel back to the CIA. I'll translate, don't worry. To understand the game Clinesmith is playing, this is McCarthy's words, it's vital to remember this definition of digraph, that it's a witting source, folks. The key to Clinesmith's defense is to feign confusion about the term's meaning, conflating it, as we shall see, with non-voluntary sources who unwittingly give information to the CIA. You're like, I'm totally confused. Don't be. The CIA tells this FBI lawyer, Carter Page was a source. We designated him as a digraph, a 2-letter CI, whatever it was, confidential informant, whatever. Let's just say CI for the sake of this this segment right here.
Mm-hmm.
Clinesmith is now saying, I didn't know what CI meant. You tracking? Joe, we clear?
Yeah.
He's saying, I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know that Carter Page being a CI meant he was a source for the FBI. I wasn't sure. Therefore, that's why I sent the email to the FBI agent, because he's an FBI lawyer, Clinesmith, saying, no, Page wasn't a source. Well, you'd say, okay, well, that sounds maybe reasonable if you're an objective analyst of this, Joe. Maybe he was confused. Maybe he thought, CI meant something else.
Yeah.
Maybe he thought it meant like Chevron investor for someone who buys like Chevron stock or something, right? Maybe he's just stupid. See, that would be, if you were an objective analyst, a maybe semi-reasonable approach if the CIA hadn't offered to clear it up. No way they did that, right? Now you see the scam. This guy actually pled in court. No, I was confused. I didn't really mean to do this. Let's go to screenshot number 2, where the CIA offers to clear the whole thing up for them. He says, hey, the CIA liaison's email in response to Clinesmith is not a model of clarity. It is clear enough for us to grasp that Clinesmith, though, is now lying, but not so clear that Clinesmith would think it futile to kick some dust in our eyes. The liaison wrote that the CIA uses, here's a quote, here's what the CIA tells them. They use the digraph to show that the encrypted individual is a U.S. person providing reporting to us. My recollection, again, this is the CIA agent here, or employee. My recollection is that Page was or is a CI, but the documents provided previously by the CIA will explain the details. Here's where it gets interesting. Here's the CIA employee's email. If you need a formal definition for the FISA, please let me know and I'll work up some language and get it cleared for use. She's offering to unconfuse you. By the way, Clinesmith was not confused about what the digraph meant, whatever it was, CI or CS or whatever they use. He was not confused. He just doesn't want to give people who uncovered the Spygate plot, him and his lawyer, Clinesmith and his lawyer, a win by acknowledging that the FBI spied on Trump by doctoring evidence. So what is he saying? I doctored it, but I was confused. And the judge is like, okay. The CIA just offered to unconfuse him. I will unconfuse you. It was a female CIA employee. So clearly, Joe Clinesmith took her up on the offer, right? He was confused. Was the guy a source for the CIA or not, Carter Page? Well, let's go back to screenshot number 3 from the Andy McCarthy piece, where the offer to unconfuse Clinesmith is turned down. Apparently flustered. Well, why is Clinesmith flustered, by the way? Because he doesn't want to hear Carter Page was a source for the CIA. They want to make you believe his contact with Russians because he's a spy for Trump. So flustered, Clinesmith said he couldn't be sure, but thought it might have come from a phone conversation with the liaison, conveniently unrecorded, of course. In other words, Clinesmith, let me get to the beginning of this. Clinesmith was asked during the IG investigation, hey, did you bother to call and clear that up? He says, I can't be sure. But I think I spoke with her, the CIA liaison. Really? Piece goes on. Yet the CIA liaison did not recall having any phone conversation with Clinesmith. Nor is there any reason to believe there was any conversation. The email exchange shows that. Although the liaison offered to discuss the matter further, Clinesmith demurred, having calculated that he could sow confusion about the digraph by exploiting the liaison's use of the word encrypt. Most significantly, according to the investigators, the liaison said she never told Clinesmith that Page was an unwitting source. Indeed, she maintained that her email stated just the opposite. So again, General Mike Flynn, under a political prosecution by a corrupted judge, acting as a politician in a black robe, still being prosecuted for a case about lying about sanctions he was never asked about. We now have the record. It's a totally fake case. He's not allowed to withdraw his plea, even though it's obvious this is a witch hunt. But Kevin Clinesmith, FBI lawyer, who pleads guilty to doctoring evidence, gets to put in a plea and say, no, I was just confused, after the CIA offers to unconfuse him and he turns down the unconfusing offer to remain confused intentionally. God forbid he has to admit he actually did something wrong. What a disgrace.
You just heard Dan Bongino.